this is for you and for future generations. And you're the ones that are going to be around to make sure that this river stays beautiful and stays pure and benefits the whole community.
There are a lot of streams that have been affected by aquaculture and aquaculture facilities, where dams were constructed on trout streams and other things that affected water quality.
And very few trout were actually reproducing in the stream. And in order to have a quality trout stream, you need to have clean, cold water.
You know, my children, when they were little, they always loved to fish in the river, and they would catch some trout or whatever. And it's a great place to raise a family, and it's something that needs to be preserved.
I joined Trout Unlimited about 10 years ago, Lakeshore chapter of Trout Unlimited. And after a year or so, I was getting a little disenchanted with the way things were going. It seemed like we were more of a banquet chapter than a active chapter, and we weren't doing any real stream restorations or projects. I started to bug the guys about getting involved in a stream project, so they made me the stream project coordinator for Lakeshore chapter of Trout Unlimited. And the first project we did was on the Mullet River, where we narrowed the stream where another tributary came in. And I learned from that little restoration project that it was really a valuable tool for the chapter. It brought a lot of enthusiasm. The people were excited. We had a good turnout. So I started to look for another project to do. And I found out that John Nelson at DNR had purchased the Lac farm that we're sitting on right now. And he was starting to do some project work, so I called him up and asked him if he would entertain any thoughts of Lakeshore chapter getting involved, and he jumped at it. He said, yeah, he'd really appreciate that.
Basically, my job is twofold. The first part of the job is to investigate problems in lakes and rivers and streams. The second part of the job is then to take that one step further and to try to correct those problems.
Well, I've been involved with the Onion River project since it began, and quite frankly, the county doesn't have a lot of trout streams, and I wanted to trout fish, and I got to talking to John Nelson years ago, and we were looking for a prime place, and he was telling us about the Onion River, so we checked it out, and John's vision was to try to do some improvement and make this a trout fishery. After that happened, a lot of people from the Trout Unlimited chapter became interested in trying to explore really making this a project for Trout Unlimited, with the vision that we would have a trout fishery with clean water that would benefit everyone. Not only that, we wanted a river that would go from generation to generation and stay pure and clean.
Really, both the public, trout anglers, as well as myself and other Department of Natural Resources employees recognized fairly long ago that problems existed on the Onion River. And we both really came together to try to join forces and correct those problems. The major problems of the Onion River are, first of all, water temperature problems, where water has been slowed so it has warmed up. Another important problem is non-point source pollution from farming activity.
Well, we had the septic for the milk house waste was emptying over here. It had failed and it was going into the river, and that's when I said, well, we have to do something.
This area of the river is really needed to be protected so that the trout can have a nursery to raise their young. I mean, that's really what's going to happen, and then they will reproduce and the trout was spread out on down the river.
Land acquisition really is an important part of the project. Landowners such as the Bonhoeffs receive a payment in return for certain rights that we buy through that easement. Much like a power line easement buys certain rights from a landowner, we bought the rights for the public to be able to fish on that property, and also the right to be able to make improvements to the stream itself. The Camerath and Silver Springs property were quite different for the simple reason that we, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, really were not able to acquire those lands directly from the previous owners. Because of that, a private individual and his corporation stepped in to buy both the Silver Springs and Camerath properties and held on to that property until Department of Natural Resources was able to then subsequently buy those areas of those properties that we could use and turn over for public use and for habitat restoration. So it was kind of a unique situation where somebody stepped forward to help us out in an acquisition process that otherwise probably would not have occurred without that help. Well, really there are three major areas where we're concentrating our efforts right now. First of all was the Camerath or former Camerath property, where there were two big ponds on a major tributary to the Onion River.
Two major ponds that had been used for racehorses, to rehabilitate racehorses and to strengthen them, and there had been a small attempt at raising trout on that property. The dam on that property had to be removed and was. The water coming off of that property, the temperature was heating up to 87 degrees. By removing the ponds and the dams, we now have free-flowing water. The temperature in the river dropped dramatically so that it could sustain trout.
We moved then to Silver Springs, which was another fish hatchery on the Onion River, or actually Mill Creek, which is a tributary to the Onion River.
There had been an attempt to raise trout for commercial purposes. It failed because it was overdeveloped. They made multiple ponds on the property, and those springs were all dammed up and were causing serious problems downstream with pollution. And those dams were removed, the ponds were taken out. The water now runs free so that the trout can come up and spawn.
The Bonhoeff Farm is probably the largest farming operation on the Upper Onion River. It's a dairy operation, and the feedlot from that operation is immediately adjacent to the current stream channel. In fact, it's only about 25 feet from the trout stream itself. So that during major rain events, there's a lot of runoff from the feedlot right into the stream. So our effort there was to actually move the Onion River away from that operation so that there would be a filtering effect on the remaining land.
The slipper shell, it's a state threatened species, and the reason that it's threatened is because of loss of water quality and it requires flowing water conditions like in a river system. So it's an important part of the life cycle of the freshwater mussels is the fact that they have to complete their life cycle on a host fish, and these guys use the Johnny darters, which is what occur in this river. What we're going to do is take all of them out of this reach from there up to where they're going to cut off the diversion, and then we're going to move them upstream of that. So we're moving them all out of the way so they won't get harmed when they dewater this channel.
Really what she's doing is shaping the banks so that the floodplain can act naturally, like it naturally would in a river that was created by glacial runoff and everything, so that when the water comes up, then it can dissipate the energy out on the bank and not just eat away at the banks and erode those. So, she's shaping those and getting them so that, like I said, the water can flow up and out and dissipate that energy during a flood. Basically, we'll take out the clay first, and then we'll put the topsoil back on there, seed it, protect it with some of this coconut fiber, and that'll be the bank. Later on, we'll come in and put some of the habitat features in, like bigger boulders and rocks and deeper pools. But right now, we need to get things shaped and start the grasses growing before the end of the growing season.
Crib. That's what sits on the bottom of the river. This one here is just a spacer for the pier hole.
You want these blocks on the end here?
Right. Now, yeah, the blocks go on. Best of one person.
Can't go to the edge. You want to put it here? Or do we?
Yeah, you got to hit the block, the center
right,
block. Look at that. This.
Wait.
Well, the Lakeshore chapter of Trout Unlimited has taken this whole project a step further in that they've actually raised funds and hired a contractor to do habitat restoration and enhancement on a portion of the Onion River upstream from County Highway E south of Plymouth. What they did was volunteers got together, bought materials, and constructed what we call lunker structures and placed them in the stream. Lunkers are just very simply an artificial undercut bank on a stream. We've known for a long time that trout require some kind of cover to feel comfortable and to hide from predators and be able to just simply dart out in the river and catch food as it drifts by. So these lunkers serve that purpose. They provide cover, but at the same time they protect the eroding banks from further eroding. So they're a great tool in certain instances where they help control erosion as well as provide good cover for trout.
No, you just gotta add some fill and deepen the water in front of them. They didn't do that. They put one in. I went in there a week after.
Yeah. Interesting to see what it's like in a
I don't think any of us envisioned what really was going to happen to this stream. This stream was once the jewel of the trout streams of Sheboygan County. Helen Shaw, the famous fly tyer and guide and authoress, she's in her 90s, she lives out in New York. She used to guide and fish on this river back in the late 30s and early 40s, and she related to us as to what a fine trout stream it had been. And what we want to do is restore it to what it was. We're not trying to make something out of it that it never was. We just want to restore it, put it back the way it was, and leave something for a legacy for our children.
When the river is completed, it will be when the river dries up, because it'll never be completed. A river is a living organism. It is a living process. So your trout are your monitors for water quality and for health of the environment. And we need to do everything to keep a quality blue ribbon trout stream. And that's what we're about here. And that's what's so exciting, because we have the community doing it, we have the state, the DNR, we have companies like Windway Company, you have companies like the Johnson Bank, you have all kinds of people along the river being educated and saying they want to be a part. So it is a large project, and it's going to be a continuation of a dream down through the generations. That's what we're about. That's what TU is about. We're all working together in each and every way. Everybody does their part. That's it.
Are you crying yet?
No, I'm not crying. I'm just thrilled.
So I started to bug the guys like that. And I better start over.
Actually, I can just cut in wherever.
Okay.